What's up, guys? It's your boy BJ with Native Rods, and my man, I got who do I got with me today?
It's me again, the big man Bassin.
round, whatever round it is now, right?
Yeah, round. Yeah. Something. I am round, so it works.
Yeah, man. So introduce yourself to the people who don't know you.
So anybody who doesn't know me or hasn't listened to one of the other podcasts, I am the big man Bassin. I do YouTube, Instagram, and also work for Native Rods, Native Bait and Tackle.
Sweet, man. And those of you who don't know me, I'm BJ. I'm the owner of Native Bait and Tackle and Native Rods. We build badass custom rods. That's the rod company.
Yeah.
With the tackle business, man, we pour our own lead. We make our own baits in house. Build our own rods. Everything has a custom touch to it because we touch everything. There's not anything
our customers.
on the
we
shelf.
Don't touch our customers.
Yeah, we don't touch the customers. Unless you want to be. I'm just kidding. But we do. Yeah, right. Yeah. We do carry a couple Florida brands. We carry Wise Guys, things like that. We have a custom lure company by a guy named Mike Bell. Awesome dude, badass lures. Every single lure is hand airbrushed. He does a killer job. He's an awesome dude. But yeah, that's us, man. Richard, bro, I was thinking about pissing some people off today.
Just today?
Yeah, I mean
just today. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? How are we going to hurt feelings today? Are we going to talk about some some ex-girlfriends or something? Or...
No, not ex-girlfriends, man. Worse than that. Worse than that. I kind of been kicking around the ideal of how to do this the easy way or the hard way, whatever it takes. But I want to talk about the damages to Florida that people are causing. You know what I mean? I kind of want to kick around the ideal of how we're destroying our estuaries and how we're kicking out the deer and the fish, and we're spraying the grass and all that stuff.
You mean building these high-rise condominiums in the mangroves isn't a good idea?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like they'll sink like they did in the last hurricane?
Yeah, exactly. I want to kind of talk about what the cons are, and if there is any pros, what they are. I personally, I have a biased opinion because I love Florida, but I hate what Florida's becoming.
Yeah.
That's deeply rooted because I'm, however many generations, 7 generations, born in Florida. So I kind of have some animosity towards a lot of that stuff.
Okay. We start this one off like we're going to hurt some feelings today.
Yeah.
Animosity may be the small word to use for this.
Yeah. So I think a great place to start, man, is I think you nailed it on the head with the high rises on the mangroves.
Oh yeah.
What if you had to put it in a nutshell, how would you describe what you're talking about to people that don't know?
Imagine building a home in quicksand. It's as simple as it is. It's going to be there for a while, and then eventually it's just going to sink. The biggest thing I'm going to say about the stuff like that is we are a growing area. Cape Coral is becoming one of the most moved to places in the United States, let alone Florida becoming one of the most moved to places in the whole country. From Southwest Florida, we're looking at, what are they saying? Like 1,300 people a day are moving here right now.
Yeah, to Southwest Florida.
Yeah, that's crazy. Not the whole state of Florida, just here. So, I mean, it's great for people like you and I in the fishing industry because it means we have more stuff to sell people to, because they're moving to a fishing capital of the world.
Yeah.
But for how long is that going to last when we start destroying our estuaries, our mangrove lines? Like, here's the big thing that people don't realize. Mangroves are federally protected in the state of Florida. Like if you go out to Matlacha or down in Estero Bay or any place like that, and you take a knife to mangroves and you cut a mangrove root or anything like that, theoretically you could be arrested for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're seeing people like right now they're talking in Cape Coral down by a park called Rotary Park, out towards Tarpon Point.
Okay.
All that. They're getting ready to build another high-rise super condo, all this, and they're building it in marsh and wetlands.
Yeah.
And, we just went through one of the worst hurricanes the Gulf Coast has ever seen.
Yep.
And we saw what happened to that area down there.
Yep.
And, there was 5, 6, 7 feet of water that washed away people's lives.
Yep.
And that's a great place to build that condominium and all that other fun stuff, while also destroying one of the things that was able to make that storm weaker for us. The mangroves take a hit. People don't realize that there's not different styles of mangroves. As you come in off the coast, you have your red, your white, and your black mangroves.
Yep.
All of those are made to be grown at the water, near the water, or a little bit away from the water. And what those do is they actually create this wind barricade to stop, tidal erosion, wind, and it's a huge benefit to have, and we're destroying it left and right. And it's taken away native wildlife, it's taken away hiding places for our fish to go. It's taking away land for raccoons, possums, and other things that actually, benefit. They don't just dig through your trash, but they're also eating, carcasses. They're eating bugs. They're doing all that. It's not just we took little Ricky raccoons, home away. You're taking away one of the things that's defending Southwest Florida against a lot more than what you think.
Yep. And a lot of people don't realize that they go and they pay for their condo, and they move in and then they see somebody like you or I pull up on a boat and you're fishing their dock, and the next thing you know, they come outside yelling at you, screaming, talking about you can't fish here. And
I own the water.
Yeah, and the thing that they don't understand is, like, I've had guys personally, like with a personal experiences. I've had, like, I'll be fishing around somebody's dock on the boat. I'm not tied up to their dock or anything like that. I'm not disrespecting their property, right? But I'm fishing the water. I know that snook and tarpon and everything like that love structure, and the structure in the water, man. I'm not trying to hook into their dock or anything like that. I mean, I understand the pieces of that could make somebody, not like people fishing their dock or whatever. But the thing is, man, is I've had guys tell me, you're killing the fish, by catching that fish, taking the hook out, put it back in the water. I mean, I've caught so many snook and tarpon and stuff like that I don't take pictures of every fish anymore. My goal is to catch that fish and put him back in the water, revive him, get him going, right? And that guy that lives in that condo, or that lady that lives in that condo, or that whatever on the waterfront, they think that they care about that fish more than somebody like us who's dedicated our lives to that fish. I've grown up, I've opened a business, like this is my life. Like, all I do is these fish. But I'll have them screaming at me, yelling like, you're killing the fish, get off my dock, and they're talking about killing fish. And I look at it and I'm like, brother, you just took out freaking, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 acres of mangroves to build this piece of shit dock. Like, why are you yelling at me? You know what I mean? Like, I've been here way longer than you. Like, you moved down here from wherever last week and you're pissed off about me fishing. It's like, what would you rather me be doing? Breaking into your house or whatever, your car, or fishing, man? It's like we're giving such a bad image to these kids, man. Like the younger generation that wants to go fish these places, they'll be nice in the community. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Fishing in somebody's backyard, and they'll come out. I'm gonna call the cops and da 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 da. And it's like, dude, that kid could be in drugs or whatever, and they're choosing to go do something that's productive in their life. It's going to teach them patience. It's going to teach them reward. Fishing teaches so much, man. And it's it grinds my gears. Right. It's like,
just like the simple chase off. And like, people don't realize, like, let's go off what you were just talking about with people on the boat. Like, if you're fishing on a boat and people are harassing you, real Floridians know that that's a misdemeanor. You can't harass fishermen on a boat, which I love is a great law here in the state of Florida.
It is.
But, I'm not saying call the cops next time Karen comes out on the dock and starts harassing you about fishing. But just know that, there are there's a lot of people here that don't understand rules, regulations, and a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the same people, like I was saying, cutting down mangroves because they're getting too close to their property, or the same guy that pours concrete into a burrowing owl's nest.
Yeah, and not care because it's $20,000 to move it, so I'm not paying that $20,000. It's ridiculous.
Well, there's no burrowing owls here. They made a movie on it that happened that much.
Yep.
I watched that in school in Florida when they taught me how to run from alligators.
Yep. Owls. Or was it? What was that movie called?
Who?
Yeah. That was
what owls do.
Yeah, that's a good movie, man. That's a good movie. So with that, like we've talked about, like building on top of mangrove structure, stuff like that. But what happens to that snook or that redfish or that sheep's head, snapper, catfish that uses those mangroves as a structure? When we cut them out, what happens?
Simply what happens is they lose a home the same way that we deal with people who lose homes for themselves. They get displaced. They're not able to do what they're supposed to do for the society or the environment they live in. So you're going to find yourself in a lot of situations where, there may have been a great breeding area there for snook and reds and all of that. And now these fish are going to return back when it comes time to breed or come time to, hide their fry, or the fries can hide somewhere. We're going to start losing populations.
Yeah.
You're the same way if you take away 1 million homes for 1 million people are going to be displaced. They're going to move away. It's going to affect the way things work in that area.
Yep. Absolutely, man. It's a bad thing, man. I think it all the population. Dude, we don't talk about how smart dolphins are getting. That sounds so crazy, right? And it's something that's like out of this world that nobody.
I love Flipper, but he's become my worst enemy.
Dude, like no bullshit. I have taken a stapler and stapled the back of a pinfish because the dolphins were eating around the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I've put a staple in the back of it, and they can see the staple, and they will not eat where the staple's at. They'll eat around the staple. And dude, it's insane how smart they are. But people don't think about when we take that hiding place away from them snook or that redfish. What we're doing is leaving them open to dolphins, predators, and things like that, and other predators. Everybody thinks sharks are the main badass of the ocean, but it's not, dude. Dolphins are insane. Like porpoises are the top predator. Shark will not mess with a porpoise. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
They're the karate fish of the sea. Like they'll just sit up there, and we've seen. You and I've probably seen this thousands of times of them launching mullet or snook or redfish 30 feet into the air and then beating them senseless. Oh yeah, they play soccer with the puffer fish.
They do, man. They do. So that's one thing that causes. The other thing is, like you said, like the wind barrier kind of thing. We don't think about it, man. But I remember, I've lived in Florida, South Florida, my whole life. I took a drone in Matlacha one time, and I took the drone and I started flying the drone up, right? And I got above Matlacha, and I, living here my whole life, didn't realize how many mangroves there was, in that area. When you get above Matlacha, Pine Island, all that, it is straight mangroves. You don't see nothing but mangroves until you see houses. Yeah,
we have the largest mangrove forest, I believe, in the state of Florida on this coast. It's called the Calusa Blueway.
Yep.
And, it's got tons of kayaking trails in it for people who want to go out and check all that out. But the Calusa Blueway stretches, I believe, all the way up to Tampa.
Yeah.
And all the way down south to the Glades.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. It sucks to see that stuff get destroyed, man. And my biggest thing is so many people come down here and they're like, I love Florida. I love that there's fish. I love that there's, deer and alligators and this and that. But now I want to take away their homes. I'm not saying that we shouldn't build houses and that we shouldn't have people here that want to come here, because we do live in paradise, and I love Florida, and I would want almost anybody that respects it to experience Florida. But the key topic in that is respect.
Yes. It's huge.
Florida itself, man, if I was to classify Florida, I think the whole damn state should be a national park, because of the way that everything is set up and the wildlife. And, you get down into the glades, man, and you get on 41 and you look to your left when you're going east, and you look at the sawgrass. It's just miles and miles and miles of sawgrass, going down 41. And then, you look to your right and, you see the same thing, and you see these like these cypress heads and stuff like that, man, that you can look out there and 100% know that just about every one of them cypress heads is slap full of hogs and deer and everything else.
A skunk ape or two,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Sasquatch.
Little freaking Bigfoot's out there stomping around.
Yeah, man. But we've talked, I mean, it's in the media about like the water quality and things like that, right? But we don't talk about why that water quality happened. You know what I mean? What people don't realize is Miami was not supposed to be a city. You know what I mean? Miami was not supposed to be built on top of. Miami is a swamp. You know what I mean? You don't realize it because you see concrete and asphalt everywhere. But Miami is a swamp. And when they built the Tamiami Trail, which is 41 that you hear us talking about a lot in these podcasts, that Tamiami Trail means Tampa to Miami, right? It was a road that was built to go from Tampa to Miami. And what they did to stop South Florida from getting flooded from the Everglades, because basically the way that it works is Florida is a filtration system from the top to the bottom, right? And what happens is it starts way further than the Everglades, but the Everglades is kind of where it really kicks off, with all your grasses and all this stuff that catches dirt, debris, algae. It eats all your bacteria, all your fertilizers, all that stuff. That grass eats all that on the way down through the Everglades. And you would think, people think swamp, right? And they think dirty water. But when you get down to the Everglades, man, and it looks dark because the dirt is dark, but you can take like a bottle of water and pick it up and it's clearer than any water you've ever seen because of the filtration that's with that grass. That coming through that thing, man. And what we neglect to talk about is the fact that when we built that road, right, when we put in these dams and we put in these jetties and we stopped this water from flowing from north of Tamiami Trail to south of Tamiami Trail, and we put in these little channels and canals and things like that the water can go through, right? But think about a road that stretches from one side of Florida all the way to the other side, because it starts in Naples, right? It doesn't start in Naples, but where it cuts across is in Naples. When you're back to the left and you go towards Marco Island, from there all the way, it goes past Chrome Avenue, which is all the way to the other side of the state. We basically put a wall to stop water. And we put little holes in this wall to allow, the water that was okay to come through. So before we did this, the water from Lake Okeechobee and all these other things ran out of the other coast more than it does today. But people came down to Miami and was like, hey, I want to build a high rise here and, all this stuff. They started building up, and what happened was that the ground was too wet, the water was too dirty, because it took money to live in Miami. It was no man's land. You know what I mean? It was something that was not like, the people that lived in Florida were crazy to people from up north, and Thomas Edison's day and stuff like that. Oh, they said Florida is no man's land. You're going to get picked up by the bugs and drug off. Florida's a no-go. But
the dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Dinosaurs we got.
Exactly, man. And we started building that, and it was because one person's like, hey, I don't want this dirty water, or I don't want this, or I don't want this grass, or I don't want, my yard to be sand. Like, how do I fix this? And we the Army Corps of Engineers, not to call anybody out, but decided to move this water out of the Caloosahatchee more than the other coast, because they were scared of it flooding over there, and a multitude of reasons. but I think the biggest thing is money. You know,
absolutely. There was a lot of money on the other coast. I mean, that's what they call it, the money coast on the other coast.
Yeah, money dictates that flow of water. And what happens is, for those of you that don't know, U.S. sugar and I mean, it's not even just U.S. sugar anymore. It's people in their houses, right? They're spraying fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, all this stuff into their water. I mean, into their yard, sorry. And then it rains, and then that water takes those, it's nitrogen and all this stuff. It takes all these chemicals and it pushes it down into Lake Okeechobee. And then Lake Okeechobee is like a cesspool of bacteria and algae and everything else. And then the way to get that water out is like, screw it, just push it out the Caloosahatchee, because the West Coast is the shit coast. You know what I mean? Like, let's just.
That caused our big issue of 2017 with the water quality issue, where we lost a few metric tons of sea life and local, aquatic fauna. We were losing. I think we had a killer, not a killer whale, but a whale shark wash up on Sanibel.
Yep. We did. Yep.
We had manatees and dolphins dying, because what had happened was we have a natural thing called red tide. And that takes the news every year. We have red tide. But it's a naturally occurring thing, but it's been fed more with the more nitrogen and stuff in the water. So just like you were saying, with the blue-green algae getting flushed down the river, we saw huge mats of that blue-green algae get out and hit that red tide bloom. And what happens to the blue-green algae is it breaks down in salt water and becomes food for that red tide. So we were already seeing a record high of red tide in the area. For a lot of people who may not be aware of that, which is naturally occurring, like I said. And the blue-green algae is naturally occurring. But when they're both fed by things that man is doing, which is what happened, get a superstorm per se. And we lost tons and tons, and I mean literal tons. I'm not saying tons as, an over exaggeration. I think it was 3.1 billion tons of sea life.
Yeah, man. And the thing is like, the news put some of this out, right? They were showing like maybe like loaders.
They were showing the front end loaders loading up dolphins,
of fish, right?
catfish.
And I'm not pointing fingers at the media, but what they showed you was only this much of how bad that problem really was. You know what I mean? There's 400, 500-pound Goliath grouper laying on the beach, dude. And I don't know if you ever seen a 400-pound fish, but it's big. You know what I mean?
Very large.
Yeah,
especially because they're federally protected as well.
Yeah.
There was, it wasn't just it was killing like catfish and all this. Flipper was going, manatees were going, Goliaths, all these federally protected animals were being affected.
Dude, and the crazy thing is, one of my buddies, Mike, that's on the podcast a lot, he lived on a canal in Matlacha, and I walked out his back door, bro, and it's the worst smell I ever smelled. I smelled it down the road, but the cake of fish that was on top of the water, bro, of like just baby fish of every size, shape, and color, you know what I mean? Just caked thick on top of that, bro. It was horrible. One thing I want to make clear, though, Richard did a good job of saying that red tide is naturally occurring. But I want to clarify something just for the people that don't know. We personally are not saying that red tide is something brand new that man is causing. When Ponce de Leon landed over here, he wrote about red tide bothering him, his lungs and everything else. Red tide has been around forever. You know what I mean? We're not saying that red tide, is brand new or anything like that. But like he said, red tide is fueled by the blue-green algae. The blue-green algae is fueled by man. We're talking about the trickle of downfall that has. So to get into it a little bit more, let's say, even on the other side of it, you're putting the fertilizers from, let's say, Big Sugar or your yard. You want your grass to grow better, right? Joe Blow built a apartment complex, and they put grass out, and the community is not happy because the grass is a little brown because it's hot as shit in Florida and it hasn't rained in 3 weeks or whatever. So they spray fertilizer all over this grass, and then they spray water on top of it. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose when rainy season comes around and it rains, 2 foot a day. Not really 2 foot, but a lot. It rains all day long, you know.
Oh yeah, we get the 4 or 5 inches of rain, you know, 3 o'clock every afternoon.
Yeah, all that water gets pushed into the ditch in front of your house, right? And then that ditch carries it to the canal, or the water drainage under the road, and then that gets carried to the canal, and then that gets carried to the river, and then the river pushes out into the bay. And what happens is all the weed killers, and it's not just the fertilizer, you know, the weed killers. We're spraying all this weed killer, and then that weed killer gets washed out, and all of our seagrass is done. You know, as soon as that weed killer hits it, it's done. So you can literally watch at the mouth of the river for miles, no grass, and then you can watch the grass starting to appear again when the water kind of dilutes with salt water a little bit more to get rid of the fertilizers. And you can watch that happen. And every year as it starts raining, you can watch all of that grass die every year. And it's like a cycle, and it gets pushed back further and further every year. You know, it's crazy. My grandpa actually has a picture in the Caloosahatchee River when he was a kid. And this picture, I mean, my grandpa's 80 years old. This picture was taken when he was a kid, so let's say 70 years ago. But you can actually see the bottom of the river with him standing up in the picture. And as you know, some people may not know, but you can stick your hand under the water in the river right now, and you can't see your hand because it's so dirty. And that's not naturally happening. You know what I mean? I mean, if we went towards like and said, hey, a lot of it's tannic acids and tannins in the water and stuff like that, that's making the water darker. I understand that, but that all falls to the bottom of the water. You know what I mean? You can take a couple river water and pick it up and you can't see through it. You know what I mean? Because of all the dead algae and the dead this and that. And, you know, it's
you know, one huge thing on top of that too is we were talking about how it flows from, you know, the top of Florida down. People don't realize that for the last 40 years, 50 years, we said we were going to hurt feelings, so I'm going to call it all these Disney folk.
Do it.
So essentially, Disneyland or Disney World, whatever we have here, I don't keep up with it enough. They were unregulated, and they didn't have to answer to the EPA or anything on what they were doing to their parks. So I want you to imagine what me or you can buy at, you know, the fertilizer store for our lawns.
Yeah.
Disney was keeping their fields and hundreds of acres, thousands of acres fertilized and done all this too, and they were dumping it. And they're at the very top of the long trickle south. So for years, they didn't have to answer for somebody, and they got to dump whatever they wanted, no rules or regulations against it. Well, as of recently, they lost that right, and it caused a whole bunch of issue, and we started to see what they were dumping in there. And this goes back to that blue-green algae. So what was happening is it creates these big biomats on the bottom of the rivers and on the bottom of Lake Okeechobee. And as that stuff breaks down, it goes to the surface, creating that algae. And it's just one of those things that, you know, it's just one of those unchecked things. If we would have maybe 30 years ago, it may have made a difference. You know, there could be billions of tons of sea life still around, because not only did that shut down fishing, we actually, as fishermen, we lost the right to harvest some species due to the amount of, wildlife that we lost. We weren't able to harvest snook until last year. And I ate my first snook for the last 5, 6, 7 years right now, literally the other week, because I finally was like, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of people catch good size fish. Let's keep it.
Yeah, man. It's, and a lot of people, so like I have pictures, I mean, you've seen them 100 times in the shop of like boats full of snook, right? Back in the day, let's say, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, where snook was unregulated. It was a trash fish, and everybody said it was a soap fish because of they cooked it with the skin on it. The skin tastes like soap. Anyways, they were harvesting a lot of them, and they were definitely over harvesting.
Absolutely.
But what we neglect to realize is the amount of people that were over harvesting them does not hold a candle to the amount of people who are regularly harvesting today, right? Because the population is so much higher, and all we did was took, let's say 20 people that kept snook, that kept, let's say 20 a day, whatever they did. We took 20 people that were doing that, and then we moved that to, I don't even know the number. It's got to be like thousands and thousands of snook that are took a day. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you got to think of this, like, let's look at the number of charter captains in Southwest Florida. I think it's around 1,500 registered captains in just Cape Coral, Fort Myers.
Yep.
And each one of those captains can take out 4 or sometimes a little bit more people.
Yeah, 4 to 6.
Depending on what their license is. They have the 6-pack and all that.
Yep.
Based on their guide's license too. But just imagine that. That boat goes out. Not everyone's going to catch a keeper snook, but let's say 5,000 people went out today just on charter boats.
Yep.
And 4,000 of them got keeper snook.
Yep. It's a lot of snook.
4,000 fish.
Yep.
They're being taken on top of mangrove snapper, on top of sheep's head, on top of redfish, on top of trout. This isn't just like a little small, they made a slot size for snook, which I agree with. I think every fish, because some people may not know, when a snook reaches towards 35 or bigger inches long, they become female.
Yep.
And then all the runt males, all the smaller fish, breed with them. So that's why we have that slot size.
Yep.
And the snook, because, like we talked about in the invasives and exotic podcast, snook and some other species can actually move up into fresh water and live there. And another very uncommon thing that people, they stand by, the snook can't breed in fresh water,
Yeah.
The reason that people think that is because snook, when they have their eggs, they have to stay buoyant. They have to stay off the bottom.
Yep.
So they're either born in current or born in saltwater because they float.
Yep.
But the reason that, people say they don't breed in freshwater is because of the fact that there's not always current in freshwater to keep those eggs off the bottom, because the eggs hatch overnight.
Yep.
People don't realize that when a snook egg is dropped to hatch, it's about 12 hours.
Yeah. Another good point of that, though, is to explain that there's not a drop of water in Florida that's completely fresh.
No, the freshwater is a myth, and unless, and I mean, you can go to some places where, you're going to have natural spring freshwater, but Florida was a sandbar before it was even close to being livable, and then before Florida was livable, it was under the water.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we find shark's teeth as far inland as 30, 40 miles in.
Yep.
And if you look at Florida on a map, you can see the original sandbar because it's the big ridge that runs through the center of Florida, just north of Okeechobee.
Yep.
And we live on a sandbar that's just out of the water just enough.
We do, man. And speaking of like water quality, I think we neglect to talk about, like we talk about the water quality and the chemicals and everything else that's being pumped into the water. But we don't talk about like simple things as simple as like the soap from your car. You know what I mean? I'm not telling you not to wash your car, but we need to be aware of that. That water, when you're washing your car in your driveway and you have a drainage in the middle of the road or whatever, when that water washes off your driveway, it goes into that, into that drainage, and then out to the river, through the estuaries, through the bay, out into the ocean. In Southwest Florida, if you don't know, when rainy season comes and the water starts getting really bad, basically like what me and Richard have been talking about this whole time is it doesn't rain. We're spraying fertilizers like crazy, and then it rains all of a sudden and it washes all that out all at once. So that kills it. But you can actually go to like places like Sanibel and stuff, which is kind of at the mouth of the river. And you can see a line of water where the water goes from like shit to like the most beautiful water you've ever seen in your life. Mm-hmm. And that like literally is the saddest thing as like a fisherman that I can see. And the thing is, man, is I'm in my 30s, But I can look back to when I was a kid, when I used to go out there all the time, and I don't remember seeing that, and I've talked to people who are older than me, and I'm like, man, do you remember the water changing like that? Like being able to see a line in the water? And they say to an extent, but not at the level that it is now,
It was still clear water back then. I mean, my grandmother told me about the stuff. They moved here in the 80s. And in the 80s, like, let's take the Cape Coral Yacht Club, for example. For like the last 10 years, they kept shutting it down because there was so much fecal matter in the water.
Yep.
From sailboats and runoff and all of that. Well, back, in the 90s, you could go swim out there and eat the oysters off the oyster bar at the yacht club.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you can see the bottom. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and, I'm only 26 years old. But, I remember as a kid, you could walk out on the pier and you could look down at the bottom and see everything. Yeah, that was summer vacation, me hanging out with my grandmother, or, me going out and fishing with buddies. You could see bottom. And it wasn't really, I'd say about 2015 and up is when you lost all visible water quality in the river. It just became sweet tea soup.
Yeah, no, definitely. On another note, something that I don't think gets talked about enough is prop scar and stuff like that, right?
Oh, prop scar, the destruction of the oyster beds.
Yeah. So what happens, if you guys don't know, is somebody comes down and they rent a pontoon boat, or they move down and they get a V-hull center console boat that drafts, let's say 3 foot of water, a bigger boat, 2 foot of water, bigger boat, and they see us out here on, $100,000 flats boat that drafts 6 inches of water, and they see us running across the bay, with the prop out of the water. They don't know that, but I mean, literally, the motor's not even pissing. The pickup's not even underwater, and they see us do that, and then they think that they can do the same thing with their big, V-hull, cuddy cabin, center console, whatever, and they don't realize that all that grass is a estuary basically for trout, for pinfish, for everything, for shrimp, whitebait, all those fish, they hide in that grass. And what happens is that grass, when their prop runs through that grass, it's in the sand and it's kicking that grass up, right? I got plenty of videos that's on the channel or on Instagram where I'm flying a drone over top and it looks like a bowl of spaghetti, literally, because the grass that's taken out, and it's such a sad thing to see, because we already have the water issue that's killing the grass. And then on top of that, we have boat traffic that's out of this world. You go out on a holiday or something like that.
It's ridiculous.
And there's more boats than you can count. Just tearing up everything, that's around, and you'll be sitting there and you're fishing in a spot and somebody sees you. And I understand that they see you fishing there and they're like, oh, there's a local guy over there or something. Maybe there's fish over there. But then you've been stalking this school of redfish all damn day long, pulling around, trying to get on one of these redfish. And then, somebody comes by with their boat, 4 feet away from you, throttle wide ass open the whole way until they land on top of you. I don't have too many times that I get really frustrated with people, but that's one of them.
Because they just fly up on you like it's no one's business.
Yeah. And they're not paying attention to what's going on. And, for a long time, I got really frustrated with that, and I wanted to cuss everybody out and, freak out. But the problem is, it's not that, man. It's the fact of the lack of knowledge. It's ignorance, right? So Florida came up with this freaking ridiculous ideal that if you were born before, I think it's September something 1988, that you didn't need a boater safety course, right? So
I got my boating license.
Yeah, right. So there's if you were born before this date, you don't need it. If you were born after this date, you do need it to operate a boat. But the problem is you take somebody who's never been on a boat in their life, and they jump on a boat and they just think that they can drive this thing anywhere that they want. And they don't understand that those channel markers that's your road. You know what I mean? Can you leave that road? Yes. But that channel marker, it's set up just the same way as a road on the highway is. You know, the left side of the road is going this way, the right side of the road is going this way, you know, depending on, you know, which direction you're facing. But you know, you'll have people that are throwing their anchor in the middle of the channel, and they're trying to fish in the middle of the channel, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's a lack of knowledge. They don't understand what they're doing. They're like, oh, just go around me, but they don't understand that this, you know, whatever it is, if it's a sailboat,
like parking in the highway.
Yeah. This sailboat that's trying to get around you's got a keel underneath of it that's 5 foot long. You know what I mean? That you know, this thing needs 5 foot of water to get out. You know, and in places like Matlacha and stuff like that, you go a foot out of the channel and you're in 6 inches of water. You know, and it's I think that, like, number one, I think it's respect, right? Respect
is common courtesy in the water has gone out the window in the last 10 years. And again, to speak on, you know, people moving here, we're seeing a lot of people come from Miami or the other coast, or people, like you said, that are just inexperienced with watercraft on this coast, especially. We went out, me and another captain buddy of mine went out the other day, and we were running some spots around Redfish Pass. And if anybody doesn't know where the passes I'm talking about are, we basically, look at a map. We're running everywhere from Sanibel up to Boca Grande. There's all these passes in there, and we were fishing a place called Redfish Pass. And typically early in the morning when you get out there, you see captains everywhere. You see all that. But, you know, you go out there on a weekend and there's jet skiers everywhere. I mean, we watch people, you know, on a I think it was like a Tuesday afternoon, ramping off sandbars because, one, after a Hurricane Ian came through here, we had a lot of restructures similar to what happened with Punta Gorda and the Peace River when Charlie came in. We had a lot of change in physical landscape. And I mean, there's new sandbars, new passes, new cuts, mangrove forest gone, islands washed out. I think we lost 2 actual islands.
Completely gone.
And that changes shit. You know, there used to be an island somewhere, you make a run across, and you're looking at your graph, and it's saying 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet, foot, inches, and then you do a nice step. And it's dangerous for people out on the water. Let's say if there's an inexperienced boater following you, or you got a bow rider on the front. You know, that goes all the way back like a qualified captain. If you guys don't follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, you need to. That's a good one.
Some good life lessons you don't have to experience firsthand.
You know what I think is the craziest thing in the world to me that people don't understand is that boats do not have brakes. There is no stopping. Like you're not gonna. I mean, you can put it full in reverse, wide ass open, and you're not gonna stop. You know, if anything, it's gonna cavitate and make it so much worse. You know what I mean? You're just gonna.
Absolutely.
With the flow. But it's unfortunate that we neglect these kind of things. You know, the state of Florida does a lot of things that I agree with, you know, about, like, let's say as simple as taking the plastic straws off of the beach in Sanibel and stuff like that and making it switch to paper, right? That does make a difference, you know, and I'm happy that they did that. But the thing is while we're doing that, to me, I hate to be like a conspiracy theorist type of person. It's like a smoke show for all the other shit that's going on. You know what I mean? We don't talk about, you know, like the boat traffic thing. Like, why do we not make a driver's license for boats? If I have to take a driver's test to drive a car, why do I not have to do that for a boat? You know, and there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's my right, and, you know, whatever. And I agree. I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, you should, if you feel like it's your right, you should want the knowledge to know how to do it properly. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's so easy to learn about our state and, you know, what guidelines, like, you know, you go into the rainforest, you cut down a bunch of trees, you know, we all know what happens with that. You could talk to anybody and ask their opinion on, do you think we should keep cutting down trees in the rainforest? People are going to go, well, no. Well, do you think you should keep building in the state of Florida? You think you should, just whip around willy-nilly, not understand what's out there? No, let's talk about like manatee zones.
Yep.
There's a reason that we have manatee zones. And, as much as it makes the miserable mile in the Caloosahatchee a miserable mile, but no one wants to play speed bumps with 1,000-pound animal, and especially something like the manatee, which is another one of those protected species. But, like we have other animals than that out here. We've got the sea turtles, the loggerheads, the green sea turtles. Flipper likes to follow your boat, And
the thing that blows my mind about that is we are so strict on the manatees, which I'm not saying that I don't agree with that. Well, I do agree with that. But if we would pay attention to the hit that the manatees take by getting hit by boats, I understand it is not good. And just for anybody out there who's thinks I'm disagreeing with that, I'm not. But take the impact of that versus the impact of, cutting down all these mangroves and things like that, and like I said, the fertilizers and all this stuff, which one of these things have a bigger impact? And I know it's always a pissing contest to see which one is worse, and one can always be worse than the other. And I'm grateful that we're doing something about one thing, but we need to tackle the biggest thing, sugar. I mean, Florida's biggest crop is sugar, right? And sugar needs a ton of fertilizer and it needs a ton of water. So the thing is, we're so concerned about money and that side of it in the economy, like Richard was talking about earlier with Disney. Disney brings so much money to Florida, and I'm not arguing that fact, but that doesn't mean that they should not be regulated on their fertilizers and things like that. Like, it's the damage to we're making it where our grandkids are probably not going to know what a snook is. You know what I mean?
They won't know what a panther is. They would never know that there's black bears in the state of Florida.
Yep. I know. Yeah, exactly. I've talked to people about animals in Florida that they have no idea that's here. Like you just said, panthers. They're protected, and we have signs like, hey, don't hit a panther, panther zone.
Don't hit a panther.
Yeah. And it's, I agree with that, but we need to talk about the fact that all these people are moving here and the damage that causes far worse. Like I said, I'm not trying to, piss anybody off as far as the panther huggers, but hitting a panther versus, however many thousand people are moving here, 14,000 people a day that are moving to Southwest Florida. I mean, how many panther territories are getting destroyed by them people living here? And you wonder why a panther gets hit by a car. It's because somebody took its house and flattened it and built their house there, and that panther had to go find somewhere else to live, along with the deer, the bear, everything else. It's so ridiculous because I noticed veiled chameleons, right? They're an invasive species that are in Florida. And I used to go and catch them, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. It was a changing colored lizard, and I noticed some places where people were populating them. They would take them to islands and things like that. I found a spot that was really close to my house, and one day I noticed veiled chameleons walking across the road, and I'm like, why in the hell would he leave that side over there? Everything he wants is over there. And I seen them every day, 2 or 3 of them walking across the road, and I didn't understand why. And about a week later, I was driving around, and they were building a house right there across the street behind that field. So all them chameleons that were there all got pushed over, and they're coming across the road. And that made me open my eyes to realize, this little animal that's, some of them get big, 12 inches, but these little animals that average, 6 to 8 inches, body size and then a tail, they're getting pushed out of their houses, invasive or not, they're having to move somewhere else. So I think about that. And then I think about, imagine the, 100-pound deer the 250, 300-pound black bear. That dude needs some food. You know what I mean? And then people like in Naples, it's a big problem. Black bears coming into people's trashes, and people are shooting the black bears. The thing is, you built your house on that black bear's his house. You know what I mean? It was that black bear first.
I think a great example of that is just what happened down here in Cape, and just up Burnt Store into Punta Gorda. They had 2 communities get reopened. They were shut down communities, and they were starting to rebuild them. And all of a sudden, there was hogs tearing up people's yards, and they were seeing wildlife where there wasn't wildlife, where people were like, "Oh, there shouldn't be these animals here." It's like less than 2 years ago, bud. This was where the animals lived.
Yep, exactly, man.
Cow farms. Like I went to the high school at Mariner High School, and there used to be a big cow field right next to Mariner High School, and now it's a community.
Yeah.
So where did all the animals there go and stuff like that?
Yeah. We neglect to talk about like the burrowing owls, the tortoises, people don't realize how many tortoises are in Southwest Florida, man. It's insane. Like you can go down the road like one road, in a mile stretch and see 5-6 tortoises,
And there's a lot of people who don't realize the difference between a tortoise and a turtle, which I actually watched firsthand one time, and I will tell you, it is the only time I jumped in the water after a turtle. Because this lady helps this tortoise across the road.
Oh no!
And she's like, "He'll swim now," and I'm like, "No."
Yeah, no, not turtle.
So I explained to this lady, and literally, it's one of my most teachable moments when I talk about tortoises and stuff like that. Is the lady was from New Jersey.
Yep.
She had New Jersey license plate on, and I said, "Do you know what you just threw in the water?" As I'm reaching in trying to find this thing.
Yeah.
She goes, "It's a turtle." I'm like, "No, it's a tortoise." She goes, "What's the difference?" And I'm like, "They don't swim." One is a dry turtle and one is a wet turtle. This is a dry turtle.
Yeah.
And there's even people that live here that don't know the difference.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
I volunteered with a few high schools way back, almost 3-4 years ago. And, some of these kids became a little under my wing, and, their parents wanted them to go out and do stuff like we had talked about, get out and do things. Yeah. And I'd take some of these guys fishing, or we'd go on trips with the high school. And like one of them was kayaking the Peace River.
Yep.
And we were coming down that, and I'm fishing and I'm teaching stuff about, fishing and ecology. And like, we're going down one stretch, and another great thing is like, the Peace River is a beautiful place to kayak because it's one of the last like natural places you can really be in, because it's protected on both sides of the river.
Absolutely.
And there's mullets swimming up the river, and everyone's like, "Are those mullet? What are mullet doing?" And I'm like, "Well, they can live in fresh water, but this is actually, if you follow this out, you'll end up in the Gulf of Mexico."
Yep.
And no sooner did I say that, those mullets started to freak out, and there was a juvenile bull shark in the water where all these kids are now kayaking. And it's just one of those estuaries where, like you say, if they cut water off, like when they did with Tamiami Trail, there was, I hate to tell people this because it makes them freak out, but there could be a shark anywhere in the state of Florida, the same way there could be an alligator or a crocodile. They were seeing sharks in the Everglades. They were seeing sharks in Okeechobee. There was saltwater crocs up and down the coasts, and that's another huge thing. People forget we have crocodiles here.
Yep, definitely. I've seen one that was about 13 foot, huge crocodile.
Yeah, and I mean, out of all the crocodiles in the world, these guys are like chihuahuas. They're all bark, no bite, but they bite. Yep. Don't worry, they will bite you. But those were almost hunted to extinction.
Yep.
And because another thing is they're so scarce and so timid for a crocodile species, when we take away their mangrove forests and we take away their estuaries, we take away their food source to build that condo or that resort or that the island in the middle of the what is it right now, the one that's right up there between 41 Bridge and 75. They're building that Margaritaville on that island. How much trash is going to come down river from that? Where are they going to pump their sewage? It's one of those things, and you go back and you think of these estuaries and where these fish are being raised and the quality of land and the amount of boat traffic, and then even all the sunken boats that are still here from Ian, all the washout that's still here from There's thousands of gallons of fuel. There's thousands of gallons of oil, other corrosives, batteries. We're not looking at a great future for us here, especially for the Southwest Florida in the next 5-10 years.
Yep. No, it's getting destroyed daily. Something else that I really want to talk about that's a touchy subject. I'm somewhat pretty well educated on it. I know that you are too. And it's spraying for invasive grass.
Absolutely.
That is something that really, really gets to me too. And the reason why is like the shop that we are at is on Palm Beach Boulevard, which for you that don't know is 78 is the name of the highway. I mean, not 78. What am I talking about? Is it 78? Yeah, it is 78. Right?
78? I thought, was Pine Island 78 or?
No. Oh my gosh.
Is it 30?
No, 31's down the road.
31 runs north. Hey, hang on.
I'm having a brain fart. Anyways,
hang on. I'll look at. Let me look at the map.
Anyways, it's Palm Beach Boulevard, and
I swear we live here.
I know, that road runs
80.
I don't know what the hell
78 is Pine Island Road to 31 or whatever Bayshore.
Yeah, 78 runs back by where the Franklin Locks is. I don't know. I was having a brain fart. But anyways, that road, man, I drive down that road every day to go to the shop. And you look at these little ponds. They're like retention ponds. A lot of them were man-made. Mm-hmm. But you can look around these ponds for 10 foot, 20 foot off of the water. No grass, all dead, brown. Everything is just completely destroyed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know why that is happening. And basically to give like a rundown, like a quick idea of what that is there is I can't think of the exact name. It's aquatic invasive plant management or something like that, right? Is that what it's called?
It's definitely, so like we
like subcontract out subcontractors, but I think the name of it is
it's aquatic something. Yeah, aquatic wetlands or aquatic grass, something, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. We basically have some invasive grasses in Florida that are grasses, weeds, plants, etc. That is not.
We did on purpose, which turned out to be bad.
Yeah. The government trying to play God with our plants. But anyways,
that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, so we started that, and then we started the way out of that was to spray it, right?
Well, originally it was introduced to the tilapia, like we talked about in the other podcast.
Yeah.
Grass carp, and when they realized that didn't work,
yeah. Then the next thing, and then the next thing, it's a long list of stuff. If you guys go to the some of the other podcasts, like the invasive species, there's a lot of more info about that on there. But the thing is a lot of it is, hey, let's get rid of this invasive grass. But what ends up happening is things like lily pads, regular grass around the banks, things like that end up getting destroyed. And what people don't realize is these fish create beds, right? And they have their fish in the beds. When you go and you see like this tire made out of sand in the bottom of the ponds and stuff, what that is a bed, and those fish will have their babies there, and then they'll grow them a little bit there, and then once they get to a certain size, they'll go off into the grass and continue to grow, forage for little fish and minnows and stuff in the grass and grow. But what happens is we take that grass out of there. So then the invasives that we were talking about, like Mayan cichlids and things like that, those baby bass that are, a couple inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, they're swimming around, looking for some food. And then the next thing you know, this 2-pound Mayan cichlid comes running off the bank and just smashes the bass, right? So if that grass was there, what would change is that bass would have a chance to get in the grass and, kind of get away from that cichlid, because the cichlid, couldn't see it or whatever the case may be. The downfall of it, of what they were doing like to start with, was they were scared that the grass was going to overgrow and cut off oxygen to the fish, right? Because there was no way to breathe or whatever. That's their excuse. But what ended up happening is, let's say, they build a condo, they dig out all the rocks, they turn this into a quarry, they fill it with water, they stock it with fish, then what happens is the grass that's around there, the people who have the condo, they don't want grass in their backyard, in the water, like they don't want lily pads, they don't want things like that, so they end up paying somebody to spray them. It ends up killing everything.
Yep.
In the Everglades, you can actually go to the Everglades and get in an airboat and watch people on airboats spraying banks of runoff canals, and they say that they're spraying the bank, not the water. But what's happening is, obviously, as you know, water or chemicals or liquid is going to follow the path of least resistance. It's not going to go up the bank. It's going to go down the bank into the water, and just destroy everything and kill everything. Their mindset of it is, we've created a chemical that will only kill these select plants, and as you know, that's not the way that it works. And I've talked to a lot of people that say that when they spray, the fish, like the bass and stuff like that, kind of almost get high, right? I have a buddy who's deeply involved in the not letting that happen, not wanting to let it happen side of it. And we'll have a podcast with him on it, spraying, like, in the future. But from his understanding is, the fish populations haven't gone down as much as we think. It's just that they're not wanting to eat. They're staying smaller because they're whacked out on whatever is getting sprayed in there. It's like if I give you laughing gas, you're going to be a little messed up. Or if you took roach spray and sprayed yourself with roach spray, you'd probably be high. You know what I mean? If it didn't kill you, it would definitely mess you up. And we neglect that stuff so much, man.
Yeah, no, it's like you were saying. I got a buddy of mine from one of the old bait stores I used to work at, Captain Dax, with Coast to Coast fishing charters.
Yeah,
and his canal got sprayed, and I was trying to find the photo of that while you were talking, but his canal got sprayed, and I mean, he had tons and tons of lily pads.
Yep.
And he lives here in Cape, and with those tons and tons of lily pads, they came by, and he had a video of them going down the canal spraying. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks later, there's not a single drop of vegetation in there.
Yep.
And we went from catching bass in his backyard, 20, 30 fish to 1, 2 fish. Yeah. And, we're using live shiners from the bait store we work at at the time. And, there's nothing happening.
Yep. And there's always the people like myself. I say it all the time. I say, hey, fishing is not the same now as when I was a kid.
Oh, no, it's huge. It's so different.
And it's true, though. You know what I mean? Like they think a lot of the time is, I don't know if you ever pay attention to, like, the old timer saying, oh, back in my day, you know what I mean? But now that I'm getting to be a halfway an old timer, I can say, back in my day. And it's amazing, man, what people do. I mean, we bitch about, animals and stuff like that, but we are the most ruthless animal on the face of the earth. We don't care about nothing besides money and, ourselves.
We are the most invasive species.
We are, man. We are.
It's crazy. I mean, we happen to be the evolved ones with opposable thumbs and a brain that works at over 10% capacity. But, there's a reason that, mankind is an issue. And it comes down to our sense of, well, who's going to stop us? Or, if you're not going to take it, I'll take it.
There's like this big, I don't know if you call it a stigma or whatever, but like a perception that tree huggers are crazy and they're nuts, and you know what I mean? And the thing is, in the last couple of years, I mean, maybe the last 10 years or so, those tree huggers are found out to not be so damn crazy. You know what I mean? It's like they kind of do. they kind of knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, they had a horrible delivery system.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, I was never the guy that was like commenting on the post of, "Oh, good job, you're chaining yourself to that tree and you're protesting,
you're
painting your body green." And no, but there was actually this was recent over in Miami. There's a guy, and he took off huge from that, and I can't remember his name. But what I'll do is, if you guys follow me over on Instagram, I'm going to try to share that video when I find it, and I'll tag it somewhere in my reels that stay across the top. But he's got there's a water park getting ready to be built in Miami, right next to, I think, the one of the big zoos or one of the big aquariums and stuff like that. And it's like thousands of acres of pine forest. Wow. And pine shrubs, and it's like the second largest protected area with the amount of forestry that's there.
Yeah,
they want to turn it into a water park.
Dude,
and that's the same thing. Like at the beginning of this, we were talking about the condos and the high rises. With people moving here, we have to have stuff for them to do and stuff for them to live in and all of that. But here's my opinion on it, and it's always been my opinion on it. Is you could always just build up where there's already pre-existing and turn every town into a high rise, but we really got to put our foot down and as I don't want to say conservationists, because I can tell you I've never been a conservationist, but I do have passion about my home and a passion about my wetlands and stuff like that. And really, it comes down to, do you really want that new water park, or do you want your kids to know what a fucking panther look like or a bear looks like, or be able to go and take them to a place where they don't hear cars or trucks? They just let's take out by the shop, Cecil Webb. You now no longer can drive back on those trails because they sold some property out there, and now there's a gate up that once you pass the gun range, it is only open during hunting season, and now you can only hunt the right side of the road. Because now one of the largest wildlife management areas now has people living on it. So it's like we're losing stuff left and right.
Dude, the craziest thing to me that trips me out the most is when I was a kid. I remember 6 Mile Cypress at Colonial. Where Walmart is on Colonial. There's a 6 Mile Cypress Preserve, the slough. That road stopped right there after that slough, right? There was no connection to Daniels. And they said that they could never build there. That was a preserve. It would never happen. Now there's, all kinds of stores. There's a
they backdoored it.
I mean, there's a Top Golf in the field. You know what I mean?
Look at Babcock Ranch. There's a reason they haven't been able to connect their power to the grid yet. Because they backdoored the Babcock family when they bought the land, because they didn't want to sell it. They didn't. They were completely against it. And they went behind the scenes and got the land condemned and bought it from the state once the land was condemned. And then they wanted to buy that last parcel of property so they could connect to the grid. And they never can, because he refuses to move off of that land. And it just shows you, like, if someone with more money wants what you have, they will make your life miserable to get it. I think you could even quote back to can't remember the name of the show, but it's an old Western show on the Ponderosa. There was an episode where this old rich traveling guy comes through the Wild West, and he's like, "I want your land." And what does he do? He buys the land to the north of it from a guy who's desperate on money. He finds some blackmail on him, buys it from him, and the river runs through his land down to the Ponderosa. And what does he do? He builds a dam. So now that cattle and all that land down there is worthless because it's got no water.
Yeah, man, it's horrible. And that's the way that the whole thing has happened. And it's like, people used to call like Florida the trash can of the South. It's the shithole. It's no man's land. And what's happening is we're using money to change that. Everybody thinks that the weather's so great in Florida, but the thing is, dude, it's hot and it rains. That's it. You get one.
The bugs are bad.
You get 2 seasons, hot and hotter. The reason why we So me personally, the reason why I love Florida and the reason why I love to call Florida my home is because of Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not what Florida is becoming. I don't need a Top Golf. You know what I mean? Is Top Golf cool? I love Top Golf. It's
But
awesome.
nothing beats standing on a pier smacking golf balls into a fucking a bag beer for $30 versus $130.
Yep. And I would I know it's so like controversial because it's like this one's bigger than this one or whatever, but the thing is, man, is it sucks because everywhere else in the country that people are moving from those places that are shitholes that literally are concrete jungles, they're coming here because they want a piece of different, right? Or
it's definitely what we could call Florida. It's definitely a piece of different.
Yeah, and they come here wanting that, but then they bring big money that's like, oh, you know what? We need 13 Applebee's in a freaking 4-mile radius. You know what I mean?
Dollar Generals and 17 more Publixes and
yeah, man. I know, like literally at the shop, the road to the shop, there's 3 Publixes on that road within 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I mean, shit, dude. Like, how many gas stations are there? But during the hurricane, we see why we need some gas stations. But
no, you're right. And we also saw why we need some stilt homes still too. The old fashioned log posts and shit. But
yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
You first. Go ahead.
You first. I'm just kidding.
I'm being the gentleman here. You first.
Right? I was just gonna say that, man. It's we don't understand the detrimental fact of people moving here. Like being a business owner, you would think that my number one goal would be more people, more money, right?
Yeah.
Quite honestly, it's honestly the exact opposite. But the thing is, I know that I can't control how many people are moving here. But what I can do is things like this with you. We can come on here and we can talk about just respecting this place, man, because this is as close to the Amazon or the Caribbean or an Island Life or Jurassic Park or anything that you're going to get. There's not another place in the United States that has the geography that Florida has as far as water goes.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of God's greatest plans, in the state of Florida. It is the best filtration system that there is. There's not another place that has a better system than Florida has, man. And the thing is if we're concerned about just building that next condo, we're taking slices out of that filtration system slowly, and we're not doing it slowly, to be quite honest.
We're building at record speeds. And I mean, some people here locally after Hurricane Ian, I remember everyone was like, "Oh God, what's that smell? What's this? What's that?"
Yep.
Well, I hate to break it to some of y'all, but when you get rid of those mangroves and those mangroves wash out and all that sand and sediment starts stirring up, they're stopping the sea breeze. And everyone's like, "Oh, the breeze has been so nice after the storm." Well, it's because the sea breeze is just blowing straight up in. That's the wind that normally gets stopped by those mangroves.
Yeah.
And now it's just blowing through.
And what he's describing to y'all, if y'all don't know, is basically when the storm hit, there wasn't a mangrove has leaves on it that are about that big, but they're covered top to bottom in those leaves. And when the hurricane came through, it knocked every leaf off of every mangrove in Southwest Florida. There wasn't a leaf there. So what's happening is that wind's just blowing straight through those trees, and that's what he's shit. Sorry. Hold on. There we go. I almost lost you. I backed out of something somehow.
Shoot.
But go ahead.
But I mean, that was just the biggest thing. It was just, people don't realize the little things that are around here that are a necessity to help prevent just erosion and destruction when Mother Nature rises up, because, nature will always take back what's its. And we were shown that every year with the next natural disaster or the flooding. Like there's, the New York's flooding right now. All the subways are filling with water, and there's a wildfire. Like currently, like it's what is it? Fucking October 3rd for all you Lindsay Lohan fans or whatever it was. I saw plenty of those memes today. He asked me what today was. It was October 3rd. It's October 3rd, and the smoke from Canada is in my front yard. So Canada, if you're watching this, get your smoke. But it shows you how crazy nature can be, that there's smoke in, central Canada that's blowing down to us here in the Sunshine State, a country away.
Absolutely.
And, just think about when we start chopping down more mangroves or digging more canals or, opening more locks or introducing that new law that allows this, that, or the other thing, you're going to see a huge influx of new issues start coming.
Yeah.
And it's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, man, that's unfortunate. So with all that being said, I think it's only right that we tell some things that people can do in like a quick way, but some of the things that people can do to, basically respect that are uneducated, that hopefully got a little bit of education from what we had to say. We're two ignorant people trying to educate, but we know a little bit.
But there's a whole bunch of stuff as people we can do. Southwest Florida did a big, huge step, and now during rainy season you can't use certain fertilizers, or it may even be all fertilizer to a certain degree. You can't use that during rainy season. It ends the end of this month, I think. Excuse me, because it's the end of rainy season. Biggest thing I'll tell people is learn about your area. Just literally, it takes 5-10 minutes to figure it out. I mean, they taught us in high school what the mangroves were. Don't destroy stuff like the mangroves. Don't go out there with machete. Go, I'm just going to clear this little trail so, I can launch my kayak. Go, I get it. Trust me. But try to do it without destroying stuff. Another huge thing I can tell you, you're an active fisherman like you or I. My family grows vegetables and stuff at the house. And, what do? We compost. If you want to looking for an alternative to fertilizer, compost. Your fish you catch, go dig a hole where you want to plant your next plant, throw the dead fish in there, and do that. That's how the Native Americans taught the Pilgrims. It works the same way, just the little things we can do to, maybe make a change. Because, throwing that snapper fillet that you had from your trip, or that snook fillet that you had to transport, you had to transport the snook whole, instead of having to go throw that in your garbage and where'd that accent come from? Throw that in your garbage and, make your garbage smell. You can just go put it in a plant and throw it out there, compost, do something. You can be proactive in a lot of ways. Be involved in the community. You don't speak, your voice will never be heard. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're talking. We're hoping to reach out to some folks here in the situation. But, you just be involved and do some stuff that's going to make a positive outlook. If they got a tree planting thing going on, I was a Boy Scout for way too long, and they got me to do a bunch of free labor. And, but I drive by those trees all the time. If you drive down Veterans on here in Cape, all those little cypress trees that are planted along the side of the road, I helped plant a few of those, and what they do is they absorb water, so there's no runoff in the spills along the main highway, and stuff like that. There's little things you can do to be involved. You want to help out, go to Lowe's and buy a tree and plant it, not because it's going to benefit you, but we're losing stuff left and right. Create an ecosystem that's self-sustainable within your neighborhood, or, volunteer with your park, or get involved. I mean, Florida Fish and Wildlife has a bunch of stuff you can reach out for. And like we said, they give and take to some of these kind of situations. They can be good and they can be bad. But the biggest thing I'll tell people is, get out there, get educated, because the only way that you'll know is if you experience it or learn about it. We learn through firsthand experiences, watching our estuaries get destroyed and watch the water quality get worse. If you want to go out and help, get your reusable bottle and go to the beach and have fun.
Unfortunately, Yeah. Unfortunately, man, the thing is, you don't know unless you know, right?
Yeah, it's part of the education on it.
Yeah, you don't really know it until you see it, and when you see it firsthand, it's different than seeing it on the news and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I got another podcast. We got another podcast coming up with a couple of guys about the hurricane and how much that changed. I was all the way up the river, probably realistically, like on the river, it's probably close to 25 miles, and I had 6 foot of water inside of my house. And the damage that created, we cannot fix that like immediately. You know what I mean?
Washed away lives.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy fix, but there is a lot of things that we can do to help that with things like you said. I think one thing is, if any of this interests you at all, don't just take our word for it. Go out there and look up some things and do your own research. Because you're going to form your own opinion. Just don't believe everything that you read online or see online. Because there's a lot of like playback of it. Where they act like, oh, U.S. sugar's not that bad. We need sugar.
Yeah, but we don't own half them sugar fields.
Yeah, exactly. That's
they're not U.S. They're not U.S. sugar.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's like, I compare it to, meth's not that bad.
Yeah. It only hurts the people that use it.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate, man. But hopefully, if there's one of you guys out there that listen to this, that it sparks something in you to kind of check out what we're talking about. That's what we do it for, and that's what we're here for. And if you're still watching after an hour and 22 minutes,
we're sorry.
I appreciate it. Sorry. Yep. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully, if there's anybody out there that feels a certain type of way, like, oh, these Floridians are assholes because they keep saying that they don't want anybody to move here, or whatever the case may be that you've heard.
It's true.
It is true, but there's a reason behind it being true.
I'll say it nicely if you ask me in person, but I'm going to tell you, we're full.
Yeah, I mean, like so, the business that me and Richard are in, anybody that comes in the shop, man, we want to take care of that person, and we will give you every bit of information we can. But don't for a second think that we're going to not give you the respectful way to do things. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna say, hey, use this, don't use this, don't throw your fucking trash in the water. Like,
you got a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah,
clean up your trash.
Yep. It's you wouldn't realize it, but if you ever want to know if a spot's got some fish in it, just look on the ground. You'll see trash everywhere. Me and Richard actually went fishing with Gavin, one of the guys that works at the shop, not too long ago, and I found my bags from my shop on the ground, and it pissed me off because it's like, these are one of my customers that come into my shop. Why are they throwing their trash on the ground? Like, if I could find out who did this shit, I'm going to lose it on them, because, put it in your pocket, put it in your jacket. We're talking about a bag this big that's, a flimsy, like Ziploc bag. Put it in your pocket, take it in your car, trash your damn car. You know what I mean? Don't go trashing these fishing spots. Number one, we wonder why. We were talking about earlier about the Karens bitching about, I don't want you fishing in my backyard. Stop throwing shit in their backyard. Stop trashing their shit. Stop, doing all these things. As fishermen in Florida, we have to understand too, at the same time, that we are screwing a lot of this shit up too, by doing things like that. Like, when
we're not innocent. I mean, I can't, even it comes down to, like, that I mean, I'm sure we've all left something behind, whether it's on accident or not.
Yeah.
But, it happens, clean it up.
Like we've been talking about, it's education, right? So I started when I used to bass fish a lot, and use artificial worms, Sinkos, things like that. I would hook one, it would rip, I would take it and I would throw it on the ground. when I was younger. I did do that. So I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but the education, listening to somebody talk like me and Richard are doing right now, is what made me understand. Don't throw your shit on the ground. I know it seems like it's a lure that something's going to eat,
but it might even say biodegradable on the package.
Yeah, it might.
It doesn't mean edible to another animal, though.
Exactly. So that a bird can come by and see that lure and pick it up and get its stuff impacted because they can't digest that plastic. Or the fish can do the same thing. There's a lot of things that we are doing as fishermen that need to change as well. So I think it's something. I'm not just pointing fingers and saying, "Oh, the damn Yankees," it's all of us. It is all of us. And there is a lot that needs to be done, and I'm sure we'll have 10 more of these podcasts talking about things that this list will never end. And we're not here to bitch and moan and groan about what people are doing, but at the same time, man, if somebody doesn't get out here and educate people, it's just going to continue to go to shit. The chances of us slowing it down is probable, but us stopping it's probably not going to happen. There's probably no way for us to stop it unless shit really hits the fan. But it's just going to continue to do what it's doing. But I personally would rather it happen slower than faster. You know what I mean? Like that's just me. But I think we killed it, man. You got anything else?
Just one thing. If you guys follow, like I've said a few times, if you guys follow me on social media, I do post a few things. A while ago, I posted about the 5-gallon bucket challenge. And I mean, that's even, you don't have to have a 5-gallon bucket. If you have a bait bucket with you, you can fit some trash in it and you're going home anyways.
Yep.
That's one thing I preach a lot. There's a lot of my spots that I fish that I find trash on the ground. I mean, at least I know what y'all are fishing with, leaving the Ozuris behind and soft plastic bags behind. At least I can go and grab it out of my bag and make a few casts and know what they're hitting. But it's simple. If you're out somewhere and you finish off your bucket of shiners, or you just throw it in your bucket and take it with you. If you don't have a bucket, well, great, you got 2 hands, and I guarantee you there's a loose 7-Eleven bag in that car or that truck. Just put something in it, take something with you. If it's big enough, then hey, you're doing a difference. But we're not gonna, no one's gonna hold a gun to you to make sure you clean up after yourself. But you wash your hands after you use the bathroom, you might as well pick up some trash after you leave a fishing spot.
Yep.
Make it your excuse to go get McDonald's. Go and pull up, throw it out in the outside trash, and go get yourself a Big Mac and reward yourself.
Yep, exactly. I got a really quick story. It's kind of off topic, but it's on topic. I went a couple years ago. I went to the Tortuga Music Festival in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. I don't know if you're aware of what it is. I don't know if you have any knowledge of it, but basically what it is it's an ocean conservation group that puts on a show, like a group of concerts with a bunch of artists, like 3 stages for 3 days, like
a whole festival of badassery.
Yeah, it is. So this whole thing is a conservation of the ocean and getting trash out of the ocean, right? Every single night after the concerts, dude, you could like walk through like ankle deep trash, right? From people buying their beers and throwing their shit on the floor. Every single night, a tractor, this whole beach, dude, it's like 2 miles long. A tractor would come and take all this trash and put it back up. And it's like, we're so ignorant and so blind. We are at a conservation event and throwing trash on the floor. You know what I mean? They had companies there, like part of their thing was with people throwing their trash on the floor. If you filled up one of the trash bags, they would give you trash bags. You filled up the trash bags and brought it to the place or whatever, they would give you a free T-shirt. If you bought 2 bags, it would be like a, whatever.
They were doing like giveaways and all that.
Yeah, man. And it's so amazing to me that as a population, we are so blind to what's going on that we would do something like that. And it just goes to show that it's way worse than we think it is, because it can be right in front of your face and you still do the opposite. There's trash cans everywhere, but I'm just going to throw my beer on the floor.
Oh yeah, I don't want to walk over there. I'll do it later. Or here, let me put this by my boot, and I'll when I walk over that way, I'll go ahead and I'll throw it out.
Yeah. So what Richard's saying about that 5-gallon bucket challenge, man, is awesome. I think that if the thing is you look at it and you're like, I can't do this by myself. I can't conquer this by myself. Mm-hmm. But if you got one 5-gallon bucket of trash, right, and it went to on social media and 100 people seen it, and then 2 more people grabbed 5-gallon buckets of trash. I mean, brother, we just took 3 5-gallon buckets. We took 15 gallons of trash off of your favorite fishing spot.
Yep.
I was going to say earlier, the Peacock spot on in Cape by the dealership.
Yep.
There's a fence all the way around that now. You can't fish there, and it's because of the trash.
Yep.
It's because of the trash.
One of the best peacock bass ponds in Cape Coral because people were literally dumping in that field, and it wasn't just fishermen. And I'll be honest about that. Yeah. But it was Ian Resources and people just I don't want to go to the landfill. Let me just dump this in this field, and it's what it came down to. And there's it makes me question every day if I want to get the old T word done. Because there's monster peacocks in there, and I'd rather not be trespassed from a fishing spot. But needless to say, there's only so much we can blame others for and take the step forward to try to fix. Back when they banned the spillway, or they banned all the bridge fishing because of all the trash fishermen were leaving behind. We lost fishing spots that way. And I mean, we can end it on this note in a sense of just, when I was a scout, like I said before, we left by a motto of leave no trace, or leave it better than what you found it. And I'm not saying I'm going to go load a trailer with all this junk I find at some of my spots, because some of these spots you're going to find a trailer's worth of garbage there because somebody came along and dumped a trailer's worth of garbage there.
Dude, beds, everything.
Beds, dressers, screen. We went to one spot the other day and there was carcasses, just offshore carcasses. Like they just rolled up and left them in a Publix bag laying on the side over here. And I'm like, bro.
And the thing is, throw it in the water, let the damn shark eat it.
Huh?
Yeah. I said, just throw it in the water and let the shark eat it or whatever, It's just crazy.
Throw it in the water. The turtles will eat it, but you left it in a gigantic plastic bag laying up on you did everything good so far, but you screwed it up with the plastic bag. But.
Yeah. Just throw it on the ground better than the plastic bag. Yeah. No, man, I think we hit it. I think we hit it on the head. I'm sure there'll be more. I know we probably got under some people's feathers, but hopefully we made some people see what we're talking about too. At the same time.
Well, if we got under their feathers, we can always pluck them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Get out. Leave. We're full. Yeah.
Right. No, but man, if you were a snowbird and you were offended by this podcast, I'm not sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
If you want to come after me, make sure you follow me on Instagram and then comment or then message me. I appreciate the follow. It's the Big Man Bassing on Instagram. And if you're so offended, maybe we do some snowbird rods.
Yeah. Oh yeah. With like the
big old snowbird. I think we have one of our rods with a lifetime warranty.
Dude, it's funny you say that. When I first opened the shop, I had a shirt that said "No Snowbirds." I was wearing a shirt that said like the anti-snowbirds from Florida. And this lady came in and she told me, she said, "How do you expect to have any business with that shirt on?" And I'm like, what the hell is she talking about? I didn't even realize I was wearing the shirt, and she's like 1,100 degrees pissed off. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? She's like, you're wearing that saying you don't like snowbirds and da da da. And I'm like, well, I don't.
But I like
them. But honestly, in all honesty, guys, it's not that we don't like snowbirds or anything like that. It's the fact that so many people are uneducated and they're disrespecting the state and its resources and its wildlife without knowing. Honestly, a lot of it is unknowledgeable. We're taught from a young age that we're not supposed to throw trash on the ground, but we're not necessarily taught the the amount of devastation that it causes long term over high quantities. We're not talking about 3 people in the world throwing their worm styrofoam at the spot. We're talking about thousands of people and thousands of spots. I've went fishing in the Everglades, literally miles off of the road, where you have to walk miles to get to these spots. And there's trash all over the damn place. It's like, who the fuck was crazy enough to even walk this far out, much less then throw their shit all over the floor? You know what I mean? It's like,
oh, absolutely. It's as easy as it is leave no trace, and just do all that. Like, I damn well know your guys' cars are messier than some of these fishing spots, so you might as well just throw it in your car and take it with you for you to clean it out. And I don't mean clean it out in the field that you're fishing in either.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, and if we get enough support and all that, maybe we'll kick off like some 5-gallon bucket stuff, or who knows? Maybe you follow me and tag me on Instagram. Maybe we'll do some kind of special giveaway for some 5,000, or not 5,000, but like, get enough 5-gallon buckets done, and we get a few thousand people to do it. Maybe I give away something nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll come up with it. We'll kick it back and forth and talk about it. Yeah. But what I'm thinking maybe we can do is do like a video. If somebody posts a video and tags us in it of picking up trash, maybe we'll do like a gangster promo code on a rod. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
promo code on a rod. Maybe do a rod reel combo, something like that.
Yeah, something that'd be cool. Well, shit, man, I think we killed it. So how can the people follow you again one more time? On Instagram, YouTube, all that?
Instagram, YouTube. That's like the 2 I use. My Instagram's the same thing as it's listed here if you're watching the podcast. If you guys aren't, it's the Big Man Bassing. If you guys want to watch the podcast, are we posting this video live for anybody, or are we just doing this for audio content?
No, so it's going to be video and audio, and it's going to be on YouTube, Spotify, pretty much everywhere where you can find podcasts. YouTube is going to be the big place we're going to post them because it's the easiest, to be honest with you. But
so PG will probably link my YouTube below as a tag on it, so you guys can just click on over. And then, like I said, my Instagram's the Big Man Bassing. The same way you guys see it here. And if not, you can go over and follow Native Bait and Tackle on Instagram, and I'll be in their follow list there as well. And there's other guys like me that work with Native as well, along with the Native Rod side of things, and be sure to give them a follow. They'll be pretty easy to follow off of there too.
Yeah, definitely. Also, like Richard said, follow Native Bait and Tackle on Instagram. But Richard has a promo code that he uses, and it gives y'all $25 off of every rod, or every $100 basically. So it could be gear, rods, whatever, lures, whatever. So it's basically, you put $100 worth of shit in your cart, you put his promo code in, and you're down to 75. And like I said, that covers anything on the website, and it helps him out, and it helps you guys out on a deal. And his promo code is the Big Man Bassin, one word, all lowercase, no spaces. Yeah, man, if y'all don't know, like I said, we build custom rods, and we build badass
apparel too.
We got badass apparel.
And there's badass apparel for big guys, because I didn't take the big out of my name, or I didn't put a big in my name without meaning it,
Right.
I'm a big old boy, and I have to wear my big X's shirts,
Right.
We have shirts on the website up to 5X.
Yep, that's what I was just going to say, 5X, man. Sometimes the colors get discontinued, so there's not a ton of colors, but there's always black, there's always white, things like that. Some of like the weird purple, pinks, and stuff like that are not up to 5X, but they usually always are up to 4X. But yeah, we do have tons of apparel, and we come out with new stuff every day. But yeah, man, if y'all want a custom rod, go over to the website, nativerods.com. At the top, you'll see a little form that says custom rod form. You can go in and step-by-step build your rod. You can pick what grips you want, what thread color, what thread type, everything. At the very bottom, there's a little thing that says notes for rod builder or whatever. If you put sent by Richard or the Big Man Bassin, when we go to call you back about building your rod, we will know that that's who told you about, it asks, how did you hear about us? Actually, sorry. How did you hear about us? You put his promo code in there, and that'll get you $25 off your rod too. So
and then we also got some cool soft plastics on there too that you guys can get this cool reusable bag that you can put all your trash in,
Yep, definitely. We have right now pretty much of every bait that's on the site. We have 12 colors. I think there's like 6 baits on the site right now, 5, 6 baits, different sizes. That's something you got to go check out because and
we got our bulk bags on there too.
We do. If y'all don't know about the buffet, that's something that kind of blew up. We basically, in the shop, we have bins full of plastic baits, all different sizes, colors, everything. It's like 40 different molds that are poured right there. And you can take, a handful of this, that, put it in a bag, and send it for $9.99. It doesn't have to close or anything like that. So everybody kept asking us about that. So what we did was we put that bag on the website. So now you go to the website, you click, if you want saltwater, freshwater, whatever, style. And one of our guys will go through and hand pick their favorite plastics and put it in a bag for you. So you got a bag full of plastics for $10. And there's literally like 40 plastics in each bag.
Yes.
It's slap full. The bag will not close. When we ship it to you, the baits are going to be falling out of the bag inside of a shipping bag. But inside of the bag, inside of that, it's going to be,
we like our soft plastics like we like actual buffets spilling off the plate. So
yeah, we ain't big for nothing. But all right, man. Well, I think we killed it. Y'all have a good one. Me and Richard are out of here. We'll see y'all on the next podcast.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.